Assalamu alaikum. I am Professor Khurram Qadir. I retired as professor from the Bahauddin Zakariya University, Multan in 2004 and later served as Director, National Institute of Historical and Cultural Research at the Quaid-e-Azam University, Islamabad. I presented a series of talks on world history to a webinars audience at the UMT, Center for Critical Peace Studies, thanks to Dr. Fatma Sajjad, Director of the CCPS. This series traces the formulation of social identity from prehistoric times. This is an introductory talk for the series of 17 sessions, which present an alternate geographical and historiographical perspective to history from the sociological prism which was formulated by Ibn Khaldun. In order to avoid anachronisms of historiography, the term Shazra has been used to denote spatial units in the context of an era, and the term Shiraza for demographic entities in the context of a Shazra. Historiography is an urban invention of civilized humanity. As such, it treats urbanization and civilization as a natural state of humans. It therefore assumes that urban life is a superior way of life. Literature, by contrast, often romanticizes it as an idyllic state of natural bliss. This discourse is value neutral in this context and takes the varieties of lifestyles as a natural human state. Sociology, politics, and economics are accepted as separate subjects, as an epistemic procedure, not as the essence of human nature. The study is based on the premise that human nature has three aspects and postulates that our mind, body, and temperament, soul or spiritual self, have distinct needs which are sometimes in conflict. Humans are believed to have a physical aspect of nature which they share with all beings, animate and inanimate. They have a temperamental nature that is not materially different from animals. And they have a specifically human nature, located in the brain with its conscious, unconscious, and subconscious mental processes, which are associated with the heart or the mind, related to their emotional and logical or rational impulses. The individual and society have been refining them throughout history. In these talks, I challenge the current mainstream of historical dogma on the three basic issues of historical inquiry: the delineation of space, time, and demography. I illustrate the interplay between four primary lifestyles: nomadic, pastoral, rural, and urban, to our mobile and to our sedentary, and highlight the ecological and social dynamic which determined their global distribution in history. The discourse shows how the spatial units of culture and ethnicity changed during various eras under the influence of the process of ethnogenesis and linguagenesis due to the interplay of technology, leadership, and knowledge. Various civilizations use different systems of thought for processing their inquiry into the working of their environment to formulate belief systems. In these seminars, a conceptual and historical discourse is integrated to discuss world history from about 5000 BC to 2000 AD. Sequence of the uploaded sessions. The sessions are as follows. Session 1, World History, an Alternate Perspective. Session 2, Shazras and Shirazas. Session 3, Nomadic and Agrarian Life, Birth of Towns. Session 4, History as Perspective, Zaman, Makan, or Insan, that is to say, time, space, and humans. Session 5, in eras of inquiry and belief, from 2000 BC to 500 BC. Session 6, also in eras of inquiry and belief, in the context of ilm, shaur, and bayan tarikh, that is to say, knowledge, understanding, and the narrative of history. Session 7, also in eras of inquiry and belief, zaman, makan, or insan, from 500 plus BC. Session 8, shaur, eras of inquiry and belief, 500 BC to 500 AD. Session 9, knowledge and understanding. Session 10, perceptions of the human mind. Session 11, Semitic scriptural divide, part 1, 500 to 1500 AD. Semitic scriptural divide, part 2, 500 to 1500 AD. Session 13, South Asia, 500 to 1500 AD, an alternate perspective. Session 14, Transoxiana, 500 to 1500. Session 15, China and Southeast Asia, 500 to 1500. Session 16, urbanizing the entire globe, 1500 to 2000 AD. Session 17, World History and Holistic Organic Epistemologies. The first two sessions introduce the perspective and its basic concepts. Since this is an alternate perspective, even the mainstream historians are unlikely to be familiar with the ideas presented here. The next two sessions explain some preliminary developments of human societies, segments of time and space, and general settings in which civilizations came into being. Although the main thrust of history is still taken to be the history of human civilization, it is placed in context. Sedentary and mobile communities are viewed as protagonists, where pastoral and nomadic communities provided a counterfoil to agriculture for the evolution of urban life and civilization. These four sessions thus place inquiry and belief at the center of the following discourse. Comprehension and innovation are the essence of inquiry and belief. They constitute the fourth dimension of history, along with time, space, and man. From the middle of the third session, a segment of historical data and progress of civilization is knit into the historical perspective. As a result, the discourse from the fifth session onward deal with mega shazras, large areas that can be termed cultural provinces of a socio-political nature. We started with 4 and ended with 10. These 10 include all the urbanized areas of the post-colonial world. In session 3, the first phase of urban life and civilization is discussed in the context of the 3 civilizations which reached their declining phase by 2000 BC. In session 4, issues of the emerging pastoral rural binary are introduced, and the individual yet parallel process of the unique nature of each urban enterprise and its integrated contribution to the overall evolution of humanity is brought into focus. Session 5 deals with the phase 2000 to 500 BC, in which 2 pastoral peoples, Semitic and Aryan-speaking races, initiated the transition of the urban base from its purely rural surplus to the pastoral rural binary, which has characterized civilization ever since. Session 6 deals with the conceptual equipment that was added to the repertoire of human social existence due to the integration of the 4 lifestyles before 500 BC. It thus brings us to the end of the watershed of urbanization. Session 7 moves into the next phase of civilized life and the imperial nature of state apparatus, which was at times offensive and defensive at others. It covers the period from 500 BC to 500 AD, with particular reference to South Asia and China, the two eastern megashasras. The era is treated from an epistemic perspective in the 8th session. Similarly, session 9 and 10 are devoted to Western shasras of the Mediterranean Rim and the Fertile Crescent. Both these regions were far more interdependent and interconnected than the Eastern shasras of China and South Asia. While the latter were divided by the Tibetan region and indirectly linked through Transoxiana and Indochina in the West and East respectively, and though they contributed to the evolution of Southeast Asia, Tibet, and Transoxiana, their connection was not so deep. However, in the areas of the West, the Fertile Crescent and the Mediterranean, they were linked directly and were influenced by each other deeply, despite being distinct. Sessions 11 and 12, with the Semitic scriptural divide during the period from 500 to 1500 AD. The first divide had occurred in the preceding era between Christianity and Judaism. The second divide was created around 610 AD with the prophetic mission of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When the first divide wasn't particularly significant on a political level until the Christian control over the Roman Empire under Constantine. Session 13 and 14 and 15 deal with the eastern shasras of South Asia and China with their links on either side, Transoxiana and Indochina. It is interesting to note that the Western link proved more relevant to South Asian evolution, while in Indochina, the more powerful link was with Chinese historical development, as highlighted in the sessions. Sessions 16 and 17 are the concluding sessions, which deal with the colonial impact that changed a world of 6 megashasras into one of 10 such units. In these sessions, the areas of the Western Hemisphere are introduced in the study along with the northern and southern areas of the Eastern Hemisphere, where civilization was truly introduced by the colonizing nations during the last 2 centuries. In this phase, the nomadic and pastoral way of life was marginalized all over the globe.